Of all of the films released this year, of all of the films that are still to be released this year, Final Destination Bloodlines was by far the one I was most looking forward to. It is my favourite film series in terms of it being the scariest of every horror and thriller film that I have ever seen. The Final Destination films are really the only films that I genuinely struggle to watch, but in a really enjoyable way. And I'd heard some really good things about this. I was really expecting something phenomenal. Having now watched it, I can confirm that it is a really brilliant film, but there were some aspects that I don't think were as good as they could have been. This will be spoiler free though. I actually had quite a lot of notes, and then I realised that actually I would be giving away far too much. I don't want to give away any of the deaths. I'm not going to say who dies, and I'm not going to say how they die. Certainly for me, that's part of the fun of these films, of wondering what kind of death is going to be next. So I'm not going to give away any of that. I will just talk very briefly about the concept, what I think of the narrative, and quite a few things that I want to praise. This was released, of course, this year in 2025. It's directed by Zach Lipovsky and Adam Stein. It's written by Guy Busick and Laurie Evans-Taylor. And we have a cast including Kaitlyn, Santa, Juana, and Teo Briones. And I apologise if I'm mispronouncing any of these names. And I'll be honest, it didn't get off to a very good start. The introduction is so incredibly slow. It's actually 55 years ago. It's set in 1969, which actually, at the time of recording, would be 56 years ago. But obviously when this was filmed, 55 years into the past. And we have this Skyview restaurant. And a character called Iris is at the restaurant, and she has the vision that it's going to collapse. And that, when that kicked in, when it finally happened, and we get to see the scene where everybody's supposed to die, it is phenomenal. It is stunning. It is thrilling. But it was so slow to get to that point. I was so bored. And I could be wrong, because it has been a while since I've seen some of the Final Destination films, but I don't remember any of them being really boring to begin with. They're usually really thrilling. So it wasn't the strongest start. The actual vision itself, yes, that was phenomenal. But leading up to it, tremendously dull. And then we have 55 years later, and it's actually focusing on Iris's granddaughter, Stefani, who has been having these nightmares about this event. And she learns what this vision was and learns that everybody there escaped death. And obviously we have the basic concept that we have with every Final Destination film. If for some reason you're unaware, the concept is somebody has a vision that this tragic event is going to happen, and either they escape or everybody escapes or a group of people escape. They have cheated death. So death then goes after them in some pretty horrific ways. And of course, Stefani realizes, and hence the title Bloodlines, that Iris and many other people were not meant to survive that. And therefore their bloodlines, everybody born after them, everybody blood-related, shouldn't exist as well. And death is going to go after them as well. And as a concept, I actually don't hate it. I think it works really well. I think it's something a little bit different. It's giving us something a little bit fresh. Not that I would really mind if it was very similar to the previous films, because they're all pretty much phenomenal. But it's a little bit different. And I thought the actual execution of the narrative as a concept worked really well. But the main issue I have, before I get in with some more things that I want to praise, the main issue is the pacing. Yes, the beginning was tremendously slow, but even the rest of the film, it was just so slow. There is so much downtime. We have so many scenes where hardly anything happens. And then when something does happen, it is incredible. It is gory. It is beautiful. It is disgusting. The amount of swearing I did during this film is just absolutely ridiculous. When the good things happen, they are perfect. But there is so much downtime that my heart was able to stop racing. And that's not really the same with the previous Final Destination films. That's not to say they're all perfect in terms of pacing, but I don't remember ever feeling bored. And I did on quite a few occasions with this. I was just waiting for something to happen, because the bits in between the great moments are just a little bit boring. So the pacing definitely could be a lot better, but on the flip side, the deaths, the gory bits, they are so fabulous that it kind of balances out. And we have an amazing soundtrack. The music in this is just absolute perfection. The performances are very good, the characters are well written, the concept itself of Bloodlines, yes, I thought it was well handled. It is simply the pacing. There were too many times when my heart rate was able to come back down, and I don't like that. And that's not the usual experience with these films. Usually it is one gory thing, and then we get obviously a little bit of respite, but before we know it, we're jumping into the next thing, and it really is a thrilling experience. And yes, the thrilling bits are fabulous, but they're more few and far between than they should have been. And it actually took 40 minutes, and I noted it down because I was aware of how slow it was. It took 40 minutes for me to really find an element in this that felt fabulous, that felt disgusting. I felt sick for the first time 40 minutes into it, and that's way longer than it should have been. So the pacing is a huge issue here, but the great bits are so amazing that I still came away from it feeling really satisfied with the experience. The specifics of the narrative are well handled. The characters are interesting. It is simply an issue with the pacing. Everything else, absolutely fantastic. So ultimately, Final Destination Bloodlines was a really enjoyable film, but it absolutely could have been a much stronger experience. Nevertheless, I thoroughly enjoyed it because the great bits are so great that the great bits overshadow the pacing issue, so I can deal with that, but I still think it could have been a better experience. Nevertheless, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and if you're a Final Destination fan, then without question, I am very, very happy to recommend it.